this is Jessica. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to answer our Booktubers Reviewers. And the short answer to this for me is going to be yes. A longer answer starts with what is a reviewer? And for me, a reviewer is someone who has read or viewed or listened to all or most of a product, most being at a 50 to 60% mark, and then responds to that product, leaving I liked it or I didn't like it, and possibly a why. They could do something as simple as leaving a star review. To me, technically that is a review, although a star review without any further follow-up has limited use to other people. And same way, an I liked it or I didn't like it is technically a review of that product, but it is not necessarily helpful to other people looking to buy that product. And then I would also say there's a second category here, which I would call a speculative reviewer. And a lot of my reviews fall into this category, and those are more critiques and analyses of the story where we would talk about elements that we enjoyed, elements that didn't quite make it, and some reoccurring themes or parts of the actual story. It doesn't actually recommend or not recommend the product, and it doesn't even necessarily leave off with like overall good or overall bad. It's more approaching the topic and talking about some pros and cons and leaving it more open for an audience to decide if that's for them or not. But all of those to me are reviewers, and even though not every video a booktuber does is like that, pretty much all booktubers I've ever listened to cover some element of that. I guess technically if you don't ever discuss the content of a book or discuss whether you liked a book or not, then you're not technically a book reviewer. But I mean, if you've ever rated anything with a star, whether you're on YouTube or not, or if you've ever suggested something or mentioned it to somebody else, you have taken on a reviewer role. Now, whether or not you're a professional reviewer is a separate question, and I'm not really sure what makes someone professional at something or not, especially reviewing, where there's a whole bunch of different kinds of formats for reviews. You could look at something from like a socio-political perspective, or from a storytelling perspective, or from a perspective of technical execution or use of conventions, or you could even look at something from a content perspective, like, are the things in this story true? Are these themes healthy and good for the audience? Those are all different kinds of reviews. All of them are valid, and me personally, I kind of like almost all of that style of review. The least helpful to me is going to be a star system rating, but even then, there is value in seeing that a bunch of people rated something at 2 stars or a bunch of people rated something at 4 stars. If you have ever stated an opinion on a work, you are in some level of a reviewer, and it's not a high bar to clear. And there's nothing good or bad about that either way. It just is what it is. But when people complain about reviews, there's a large spectrum of what they could be talking about and where that person is on the scale. Some authors were calling Instagrammers or booktubers or whoever fake reviewers because they just post a picture of the book on their story and move on. I guess if all they do ever is take a picture of the book and they never say whether they liked it or didn't like it, then possibly that makes them not a reviewer. But like, the flip side of that to me is some booktubers and bookstagrammers and whatnot who are a little bit bigger get sent a lot of advanced copies or arcs to be read and reviewed ahead of time. And if like you solicit that and then don't actually read the arc, I think that's not so awesome. But if people just send you unsolicited arcs, there can be a lot of pressure for someone to try and review as many as possible and just not manage it. And if that's the case, like you just didn't get to it in time, that's not really a reviewer's fault or responsibility. They can read anything they want for whatever reasons they want to and review or not review those books as they see fit. The other thing you have to remember is that most reviewers, they are not paid reviewers. I know that's a whole separate issue because we don't want the writer to pay for a review because it suggests that maybe the reviewer will feel pressure to give a positive review. So we use like a middleman, like a newspaper or a magazine, who pays someone to read books and then provide a review for the newspaper or the magazine. But this isn't a thing that we do anymore, and that's certainly not how platforms like Instagram or YouTube or TikTok works. Like, they don't solicit us and then pay us for that content. We create that content because we want to. The ability to pay as a reviewer keeps getting smaller and smaller. You have to take on sponsorships with like book groups tips, or you have to accept that your work isn't going to be paid, or if your work that you do does get you paid, it's going to be because you sold merch, or maybe you have like a successful Patreon. Either way, there's more work than just reading the book and reviewing the book to get to the money part. And for most people, they either don't want to put into that kind of work, or they can't, or they never get big enough to make that profitable. So it's just something they do as like a hobby or in their spare time. And I think calling people out for just posting a picture about a book and then never actually reviewing it sort of like doesn't address the larger concern or the larger problem, which is that you have asked someone to do something for you for free. And whether they give you a good review or a bad review, depending on the size of their platform, all press is good press in this situation. And a lot of times, even if it's very bad press, the Instagram, TikTok, YouTube book community is pretty small. So that negative press like generates a lot of talking in that sphere and probably encourages some of those people to check it out for themselves to see if it's that bad, but it's not going to touch the larger world of sales for you almost at all. I guess that covers whether or not bookstagrammers, book talkers, or booktubers are potentially reviewers, and it also covers why sometimes those people might just post a picture or say that they're excited to read something and never actually get around to reading it. I do think that we need further conversation and brainstorming about how people who read rigorously and give really thorough reviews could get more compensation for that work, because it does take a lot of time and energy to thoughtfully review something. But that's another video. Anyways, I want to thank you for getting to the end of this one. This was like a little mini meta review, just a small topic to cover, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, keep on reading, and I'll see you next time. Bye!